Yes, ma'am. I have started the recording as well.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to all of you. I am Ilyas Ahmed and today I am going to present the topic that is nanotechnology and COVID-19. So basically, we have these two terms. We are relating nanotechnology with respect to coronavirus, which is now being threatening the our human beings. So first of all, here are the contents of this presentation, this discussion. Rather, we can say that if any of you have a question, please you can stop in between my presentation as well. So we are starting from the background, and then we are going to give you the introduction about both the topics about the coronavirus, then the nanomaterial. What are the nanomaterial? Why we are using the nanotechnology? Their advantages, in what purpose we can use that, and all of it. And at the last, we are going to give you the references and then. So first of all, we are going to give you the introduction that other than a natural disasters of a cataclysmic that are the severely destructive, we can say that the natural disasters which are occurring in the for the human made are all out man-made nuclear war. The infectious diseases, they are also threatening the human being from, we can say that, the dawn of the human civilization. The infectious diseases have plagued humanity and represented the major cause of morbidity and mortality. So they are causing diseases, and not in the hundreds. They are causing diseases in and causing illness, causing mortalities in millions. And in the process, this process have shaped the human evolution, and along with the human evolution, those viruses have also they have also gone through the evolution, and they have also adapted to carry out the infection as well. So they still constitute the leading cause of premature death in the developing world, and not in the developing world. Developed world is also facing this particular problem. So viral infections are one of the leading causes of morbidity and mortality worldwide, and one of the main reasons for significant economic loss. So they are not only threatening to the human being, their lives, but they are also causing a huge economic losses to the countries, basically to the developing countries. And standard treatment approaches, which are mainly rely on the vaccination, and then these are the therapeutics which are derived through targeting key processes in the life of the virus life cycle. So major two are the, we can say that there are two techniques. First we have the vaccination, and other we have the therapeutics which are given to the patients, which affects the virus life cycle. However, there are many viruses which have evolved subject to selective pressure. So what is the selective pressure? That selective pressure which is caused by those vaccines and those therapeutic drugs which are given to the humans either orally or through the injection, so often becoming a drug resistant, so which necessitates additional resources for the development of new drugs. So it is the need of time to develop that kind of drugs which should not affect the human life along with threatening or along with killing the viruses as well. So as well as the pandemics are concerned, the pandemic through history, we have human civilization, or humans have faced various pandemics in the history. So there have been a number of significant pandemics recorded in human history, including we have the smallpox, we have cholera, plague, dengue, AIDS, influenza, and severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is called SARS, and West Nile diseases and tuberculosis. So these are all the pandemics which have, and the other one is the malaria, which is not caused by the viruses, or we can say that that has also threatened the human civilization as well. Influenza pandemics are unpredictable but recurring events that can have severe consequences on societal worldwide. Influenza pandemics have struck about three times every century since the 1500s, or roughly every 10 to 15 years. So simply we have a, we can say that not very fatal type of disease, which influenza, which is not fatal here in the East Asia, in the West Asia, but it is fatal in the developed countries. So the influenza pandemic in 1918 and 1918 and 1919, which killed more than 20 million people in the world and has been cited as the most devastating epidemic. And these are all caused by the viruses. So here we have the death toll, which is caused. We have the 200 million by the Black Death, bubonic plague, which is 1347 to 1351 century. We have 56 million deaths caused by the smallpox, 40 to 50 million deaths by the Spanish flu in 1918 to 1919, and 30 to 50 million deaths pledge of Justinian. And now we are facing another pandemic in the history of human. So here are the deaths and percentages, which is a fatality ratio of major viruses outbreak worldwide in the last 50 years as of 2020. We have Marburg, which was in 1967. We have Nipah, we have Hendra. So these are all types of. We have Ebola virus, which is now under the consideration as well. Now, MERS, which is the Middle East respiratory syndrome, which has struck and the Middle East in 2012, SARS in 2002, and 2019 we have novel coronavirus, and along with it we have H1N1. So there is a percentage, their outbreaks and their fatality. So, through the millions of years of evolution, viruses have gained a variety of molecular mechanisms. So, as I have said earlier, that humans have also gone through the evolution, but along with the humans, those viruses have also taken or they have adopted new ways for the entry into the cells, the long term survival within the cell, and they also become the resistance to the drugs which we are taking. They have also evolved for the activation, inhibition, or modifications of the host defense mechanism at all levels. So these are all the evolutionary processes which have made them more fatal and more, we can say that, threatening for the humans. So their ability to transfer genes with high efficiency inspired the development of non-infectious recombinant viral vectors for gene therapy applications beginning in 1990. So although there is also their ability, they can also be used for various purposes for the benefit of the human being. But the major what we are talking about, that is their infectious part, the cause part, the death part of there. So at the end of December 2019, so now we are talking about a new virus that has hit the world in December 2019. The WHO China country office has informed the Chinese authorities as infectious disease. So on January 9 of this year, that was the 2020, Chinese state media reported that a team of researchers led by Zhu Jiangyu had identified the pathogen behind a mysterious outbreak of pneumonia in Wuhan as a coronavirus. So now named, which is now named as SARS, which is the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, and WHO declared COVID-2 as a pandemic on March 11, 2020. So the COVID-19 pandemic is not a unique case in the history of viruses, but one representative of the new century. We can say that this is the virus which was present in our environment, but now it has evolved, it has adapted itself according to the situation, and now it become more fatal. So we can say that this is the unique case, that virus, but that is the representative of the previously found viruses, which is sobering news for the humans. Coronavirus take their names from the distinctive spikes with rounded tips that decorate their surfaces. So why they are named the coronaviruses? That their shape is like the corona, and they are viruses. Coronavirus, in fact, numerous species, but the first human coronavirus were not discovered until 1960. So mostly these viruses are found in other organisms, other animals. They are found in cattle, they are found in bats, but in the human, the first case of the coronavirus was reported in 1960. So death toll as far as the coronavirus is concerned. So here is the latest views that are the in the millions of deaths and in the billions of cases are now reported, and mostly the developed world is under the threat, and one of it is the USA, United States of America, that is facing a new, we can say that, a genotype of this. So here we have the symptoms that are the fever, runny nose, and cough and chest pain. These are the basically symptoms of the coronavirus. And we have the what we have as far as its genetic material is concerned. SARS-CoV-2 possesses a positive sense single-stranded RNA genome. The virus particles have an approximate diameter of 60 to 140 nanometer and appear crown-shaped as observed under an electron microscope. So as far as here we have in the A, we have the structure of the coronavirus. We have the envelope protein, which are called the E proteins. We have the spike protein along with the nucleoprotein N and viral RNA, which is embedded, or we can say that which is protected inside all these proteins. and along with it we have the matrix proteins as well. So here we have the receptor binding site domain as well, and in the B we have given the electron microscopy or transmission electron microscope image of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in the humans. So as far as the phylogenetic analysis is concerned, so here we have the phylogenetic analysis. So they are found in the camels, which is the Mars. We have HKU1, which is found in the rats. SARS-CoV-2, which is now hitting the humans, it is basically related to the bats. So the one myth about it is that it has evolved from the bats, and by eating the bats in some way or the other. So this myth is also somewhat, we can say that it is true, because the genotype analysis, phylogenetic analysis revealed that this particular genotype, the genetic material of COVID-19, is more basically related to the bats. So it is, so in two times we have 2019, it is also related to the bats, and in SARS-CoV 2002 it is also related to the bats as far as their phylogenetic analysis is concerned. So now we are heading towards the our solution. So that was the problem, and now we are heading towards the nanomaterial, nanotechnology. So in general, nanomaterial can be described as single structures free or in composite state where they size within the nanometer range. So as far as their name is concerned, it is a nanomaterial, or the nano name is given from the Greek word which means dwarf or small in size. So these are the particles which have a size of nanometer range. Usually that is 100 nanometer, or at least one of their three dimension is of 100 nanometer. So the nanoscale, the physiochemical properties of material display significant changes. So as we know that in the, we can say that the living systems, the properties of the nanoparticles, or the properties of the smaller particle, is somewhat different from their bulk material from which they are made. So this is the basic concept behind the use of nanomaterial or the nanoparticle for their various applications. So when they are changed, when their particle size is reduced from the bulk size to the nano size, so their properties also being changed, which give them, which make them more suitable to be used for various purposes. So as you have seen, and as we have seen, the nanomaterials are now used in the health and fitnesses, electronics, paints, coatings, food and clothing, among many others. So moreover, medicine is among the area with a growing interest in the use of nanotechnology. So here we are giving the properties of nanoparticles. So first of all, we have given their size. So their size range from 1 nanometer to 100 nanometer. As far as their surface is concerned, their surface can be, we can say that modified, or their surface we contain the polyethylene glycosylation or other coatings. Surface functional groups are also present. Surface charges are present. Targeting ligands are present. Antibodies, peptide, aptamers. And next we have the shape, that is either they can be rod shaped, cube shaped, sphere shaped, plate or star shaped as well. And as far as their material is concerned, their material contain, they are the liposomes, we have the protein drug conjugate, dendrimer, polymer particles. So these are all the nano particles in one way or the other. And as their material is different, so their properties are also different, and they are used for the various purposes. So here we have the, we can say that the source of formation of nanoparticles. So as far as the nanoparticle is concerned, they are not new thing to us. They were present in the environment since the volcanic eruptions has occurred in the universe. Due to that volcanic eruption, the dust particles also which are formed, those are all are nano in size. So, but in after the 2000 and after 2005, the humans and they have the scientists, they have synthesized, we can say that, these nanoparticles in the laboratory for the benefit of the human being in one field or the other. So as we are botanists, we are using nanoparticles from two basic sites. One are the microorganisms. We have the fungi, yeast, actinomycetes, bacteria. Enzymes are also used, and from other, that is the plant tissues, which is called the green nanotechnology or green nanosynthesis, in which we are using plant extract as a reducing agent. And those biological synthesis is then biological synthesis of nano, when they are synthesized, they are characterized, and then they are applied for various purposes. Here is the key. So the major lines, they are the most applicable areas. So these two are the most applicable areas what are the antimicrobial agents, anti-pathogens, cosmetics and medicals. And then we have a second most applicable area, that is the cell labeling, gene delivery, nanosciences detect biomolecules. And the least, or we can say that the comparably least usable area, that is the for various types of human cancers, they are used as the magnetically representative drug delivery and photothermal therapy. So why we are using nanotechnology? So there is a question that why we are using the nano, because, and the answer of this question is like here in the their we can say that the size, their surface, their charges. So they can act as against the oxidative stress. They can also cause the oxidative stress as well. They can inactivate the protein synthesis, like here we have the large subunit of the ribosomes and the small subunit. So as we said in the translation process, if these two ribosomes are some way in one way or the other, if they are inhibited, so protein synthesis can also be stopped. So they have also action in their protein synthesis, inhibition of the enzyme activity. They can also form biofilm and hinder biofilm formation in the surface as well. They can also act as a signaling agent, so they can signal the hormone response as a target cell as well. Modification of essential proteins, phospholipids, and they can also incorporate it into the DNA as well. So this one part is also important for our purposes, but it has also some negative effect, which are the mutations, and we can say that the deletion. So we will also talk about it later. So nanotechnology versus the viruses. So the COVID-19 crisis has also mobilized the scientific community in a way that no other situation has before. Nanotechnology offers a number of solutions to fight viruses both outside and inside the host, and several nanotechnology-based platforms have already been successful in the preclinical studies. So we are not using a new technology. We can say that this particular technology is also being used for the other viruses as well, like the viral pathogens such as the HIV, the human papilloma virus, herpes simplex, and respiratory viruses. In the current situation, nanotechnology is being used for PPE, that are the personal protective equipments. We are using it for the diagnostic kits for checking that either the person has suffering from the uh, coronavirus or not, in disinfectant as well as in vaccine development. So these three are the major areas where the nanotechnology is being used. So decades of rapid development have witnessed the widespread of application of nanotechnology in biomedical fields. So to summarize the advantages of nanotechnology, so first of all, we are using it for the delivery of water insoluble drugs, that are the lipid soluble drugs. So we synthesize the liposomes, which can deliver that particular drug in the form of a nanoparticle, and that drug can be targeted to a specific site as well. It also enhances the circulation time of the drugs in vivo, and it also achieves co-delivery of the drug. So at one time, more than two drugs can also be delivered by using these nanoparticles. It also improves the drug utilization efficiency and reduces side effects through targeting antibody modification, protects DNA and messenger RNA vaccine. So basically, the new vaccine which have developed by the Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech. So these all are messenger RNA vaccines. So they have not incorporated the live attenuated organisms. So they have used the messenger RNA. So these nanoparticles are also used as a messenger RNA to protective agent for the messenger RNA vaccine. The physiochemical properties of nanomaterial can also be used employed directly against the viruses, because these viruses also contains the antimicrobial properties, so they can also be employed directly for the eradication of the viruses. Currently, only symptomatic treatment is adopted for COVID-19 patients. So also the current methods employed for COVID-19 detection fail to identify the mild or asymptomatic cases which are capable of further spreading the disease. So the techniques which are now being used for the diagnosis of the COVID-19, so they are reliable to some extent, but there are certain, we can say that the drawbacks, or the certain limitations, where the asymptomatic cases or the mild cases cannot be identified. So if those cases are not identified, so there is a much more chances of their spread. So exploring nanotechnology based approaches for combating COVID-19 will help to overcome the limitations associated with conventional methods of viral disease management. So many previous reports have been successful application of nanostructure in developing virus uh, destruction. So first, we are going to see about the life cycle of the COVID-19, and or we can say that the life cycle of every virus. So first of all, the major step, the pivotal step is the attachment to the host cell site, where there are certain receptors which give them a signal, and those viruses attach to the cell surface. After attaching, they uncoat and they open reading frame. There is translated RNA dependent RNA polymerase transcribe their messenger RNA. The DNA is given, and we are not going to discuss these things because we are concerned with the life cycle. That is transported to other parts, that is by using the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and then the Golgi bodies and vesicle and exocytosis. After the assembly of the virus, the exocytosis occur and new viruses are now ready for the attachment to the other cells. So basically, there are three major steps in the life cycle of the virus: attachment, we can say that replication, and then is the assembly, and after that is the release. So if some way or the other we can stop these steps, we will be able to, we can say that, get we can eradicate this particular virus. So first of all, SARS-CoV-19 can be blocked, the attachment can be blocked by using the nanomaterials. So virus binding, it can be blocked here. Intermineralization in the cell, it can be blocked. Trafficking, what we have said, that they are transported to other parts. Escaping from the endosomes, their membrane fusion and uncoating and release of the viral genome. So they are the basic steps where nanoparticles can come into action, and they can hinder or they can stop these particular steps, and the virus spread or virus life cycle can also be stopped. So here we have the potential targets for the nanomaterials. So first of all, use of nanomaterial in personal protective equipments. So first entry is through the nose, through the respiratory system. So if we use the personal protective equipment made of the nanoparticles, so they can, we can say that they can stop the disease before it can cause, before it can start its life cycle, or before it can affect the human. So this particular, we can say that the transmission system can be blocked by using the nanomaterial made personal protective equipment. And then neutralization of the virus particles by nanomaterial, which will also cause it to the stop nanomaterial based PDT, which has the ROS, and which will also affect the systematic inactivation of the SARS-CoV-2. So these all three steps, which are the nanomaterial based vaccines, nanomaterial based PDT, and neutralization, so they, what they do, they activate either the immune system or they inactivate the SARS-CoV-2. So in one way or the other, they are preventing or they are blocking the transmission, transfer, and replication of the nanoparticles. So first of all, we are using for the personal protective equipment. The virus is primarily transmitted between people via respiratory droplets when causing sneezing or in very close personal contact. In this way, personal protective equipment like gloves, eye protection gowns, and masks provide a barrier to prevent potential exposure to the virus. So this particular, using face masks and other personal protective equipment with antiviral effects could offer a more efficient alternative. So here we have the personal protective equipment, which are made up of the, we can say that the nanoparticles. So what we have, we have the respiratory mask, we have the nasal filters, and we have the clothes. So these are the three, we can say that the personal protective equipment with the nanoparticles. So what they do, here we have the COVID-19 with their spike glycoprotein, which are very essential, which we can say that which have the major role in the attachment. So what they do, they binding to ACE2. And what is ACE2? That is the angiotensin converting enzyme 2. So ACE2 coated nanoflowers can also be made, and SCE2 coated quantum dots can also be made. And these spike protein will bind to these nanomaterial, and they will not be able to cause, we can say that the infection. So we can say that the second part of it is, if we use these nanomaterial with what we call the ACE2 coated quantum dots or ACE2 coated nanoflowers. So what they do, if they are present here in the face mask, so what they do, they will bind the viruses in them, and they will not allow entry into the respiratory system. Nasal filters, if we use, so they will also do the same work, and they will also not allow it entry to the cell. And clothes, if we use, so they, so basically they are the personal protective equipment for the medical workers and also for the others as well. So next basic thing is the surface coating. Nanomaterial based coatings are currently used for several applications and different products are now available, particularly from metallic elements such as silver, bismuth, copper, or titanium. Also, nanostructured surfaces can physically reduce the attachment of the pathogen and even disrupt the structure of the pathogen due to the nanoscale topography. So for reducing the presence and viability of the viruses, so these surfaces, for example, we have the daily life use things, so they can also be coated with the material which is made up of the nanoparticle with the ability to kill the viruses or with the ability to inactivate the viruses. So it will, we can say that it will either stop or it will slow down the transmission of the viruses. Disinfectant and sanitizer procedures to overcome the virus strategies so have been used to reduce the infections by using different disinfectant. So what they do, they disinfect, or we can say that they kill or they reduce the chances of transmission and their further transport. So the various chemical compounds such as we have using the alcohols, we have using the quaternary ammonium cations, aldehydes, so they are the basically used chemicals which are used now for as a disinfectant agent. So however, these all the compounds which we have mentioned above, they are suffered from various constraints such as harmfulness, corrosive nature, and bacterial resistance. So although they give us a disinfectant property, but there are some disadvantages to them. What are they? Are they are harmful? They are corrosive in nature. They erode the surface of the various we can say that various things, and the bacterial resistance. So now, to overcome this problem, so we have the disinfectants which are made up of the nanoparticle. This is the commercially available silver nanoparticle. Sanitizer, which is the organic sanitizer. It can also be used as a disinfectant. And here we have the disinfectant for personal protective equipment, like we have the gloves, we have the masks, we have the aerosols, which are the air disinfectants. So in which we have the copper nanoparticles, we have metallic coating, which are the ROS mediated, titanium, graphite, silver nanoparticles. So what they do, they all are used in one way or the other as a disinfectant. So in hospital acquired infections, so there are the impure water, which is also a cause of the for the disease. Contaminated surfaces, we have the food, environmental borne, hospital devices, patients. So these are all the things which are the possible way of the transmission of the diseases or the transmission of the viruses. So there is a need to block the entry and transmission in these all cases. So application basically as an antimicrobial agent, the silver nanoparticle is used in the biomedical, like the hospital acquired infections, the wound healing, medical devices. As far as the environmental concerns is concerned, it is used as a water disinfectant and air disinfectant. In industries, it is used for the textile. So basically, this is not our part of the discussion. We are talking about the environmental and biomedical purposes. So what they do in the disinfectant, this disinfectant with silver salts are currently used as silver in is deemed safe for sanitizing purposes. In hospital and other healthcare related facilities, sanitizing with nanoparticle based product could decrease the viral presence. So first of all, we have the outdoor in which there is a airborne virus particles which are present. So now we have a layer, we have the air filter media which contains the silver nanoparticle. So this particular virus, this particular nanoparticle which is present in this air filter, so what it do, it has the ability, it has the capacity to bind the virus with it. So this air filter, what it do, it will filter the virus particle. It will allow air only, and you can see the difference in the outdoor and indoor as well. So here we have many virus particles, dust particles, but in indoor we have, although it is not stopping all the way, but there is it is efficient in stopping in the entry of the virus indoors. And now we are turning our attention to the biosensor. A biosensor is a device that combines a sensitive biological recognition component and a physical transducer to detect the analyte. So these nanomaterials are also being used as a biosensors as well. So as a bioreceptor, so first of all, these biosensor typically consist of three parts, and we have studied as well. So first of all, we have a bioreceptor, that is the nucleic acid, or that is the antibody, or that is the enzyme. We have a transducer, and that is the magnetic resonance, electrochemical, optical, electrical, thermal, and at the end we have the electronic system which processes the signal and we get the result. So these biosensors also contain these things. So there is only one nanobiosensor for SARS-CoV-2 detection, which is the FET-based immunosensor developed by the Ishikawa and co-workers. And this is not developed now; it was developed in the 2009 for the other virus, where the antigen antibody binding generates a change in the conductance score related to the virus concentration. So if the virus is present, if the virus concentration is too much high, the virus is present in the sample. So what it do, this particular biosensor sense the antigen and antibody concentration, and what will do, it will give the signal that either the virus is present, either there is infection or not. The biomarker used for SARS-CoV-2 detection is the virus antigen nucleocapsid protein, the N protein, which is the most abundant protein in the coronavirus. So here we have the schematic diagram of nanomaterial-based affinity biosensor for coronavirus detection. So we have the gold nanoparticles. And these GR is for the graphene. NWs we have the nanowires, and AUNIS is a gold nano slide, and FET is used for the field effect transistor. So here we have the biomarker, which are the viruses. We have the bioreceptors, that either that can be the antigen, that can be the antibody, DNA, or it can be the aptamer. And nanomaterial is used according to the need of the study. It can be we have a diversity of nanomaterial which can be used here, and we have the optical, electrochemical, and FET based, which has the field effect transistor based. It will what is do it will transduce the signal, and it will give the result to the electronic system, and what we get that is the sample contains the virus. So here we have the targets of this particular nanoparticle. So it can be targeted along for the membrane protein, can also be used. We can use the small envelope small protein, spike glycoprotein, genomic DNA, RNA. We can say that the hemagglutinin intrase as well. Detection biosensor, as far as our topic is not only concerned here with the biosensors, there are a diversity of biosensor which is now being synthesized by using the techniques of nanotechnology. So we have the CRISPR-Cas based system. We have the aptamer gold nanoparticles based, electrochemical gold nanoparticle based, graphene FET based, silicon nanowires based, plasmonic SERC QCM based, and plasmonic photothermal gold nanoparticles. So these are all the biosensors which one way or the other using the nanoparticles or the nanotechnology, and they are used for the detection of the coronavirus. Because they are not now commercialized, they are used in the labs, they are used in the small scale, but they are not now, until now they are not available for the commercial purposes. So here we have various types of detection by using the nano material. So here we have the antigen antibody, we have the calorimetric method, which we are going to discuss as well, which is the naked eye detection. So by using the techniques of nanotechnology, virus from the sample can be identified, or we can say that by you seeing the sample, that this particular person is either positive or negative for the that particular virus. So here we have the antibody capture and antigen binding assays, which are also used. The nanoparticles, which is the viral antigen, it affects the antibodies. Antibodies are now present here in the nanoparticle, and what they do, they will sandwich between them and they will capture the viruses. And here we have the increased target concentration, and if the target concentration is increased, so it can easily be used. So as we have discussed the various methods, out of which there was a calorimetric method. As its name indicates, the calorimetric method is used because of its color. So nanoparticle based detection is what we have the blood serum, and we have the gold nanoparticle. As you can see here, the color of the blood serum is somewhat, we can say that the shade of a blue, or we can say that the gray, and gold nanoparticles are in red color. So here we have the gold nanoparticle, and here we have the virus. So what it will be done, if there is a virus present here in the blood serum, so it will mix along with the gold nanoparticles are present here. The sample is added If there is a virus, so that particular virus bind to the nano particles and change in color due to aggregation. Those nanoparticles are aggregated with the virus, and what we can get at the result, if the color is changed, it means that the virus is present because of the aggregation of the nanoparticle. And if there is no color change, so we can know that so there is a no virus. So this is a very simple, a very elegant method which is used by which is employed by the nanoparticles, the gold nanoparticles, and we can say that and we can test it in a minutes. So next step is blocking viral entry into the host cell. The first step of the viral infection, what we have discussed previously, that it is the attachment. So if is somehow or the other the attachment of the virus is inhibited or it is stopped, so what we get, we will be able to stop its further infection or further transmission. So some nano-based approaches are targeted to binding the virus particles directly, preventing them from approaching to the host cell in the first place. So if there are nanoparticles are present, so those nanoparticles will bind to the virus and they will not allow that particular virus to attach to the cell and then further entry and their further infection. So here we have the antiviral therapy used by the nanoparticles. Here is the key nanoparticles blocking viral glycoprotein, and here we have the nanoparticle blocking host cell receptor. So these nanoparticles can be used at both sides. Either they can be present or they can be with the virus host protein, or they can be present here in the we can say that the host cell receptors. So here we have, if the normal if anything is normal, everything is normal, so what it does, the virus attaches to the host cell and it causes the further replication, attachment, entry and replication and further steps. But if there are the nanoparticles which are present here in the glycoprotein, so these viruses will not be detect these particular receptors and it will not enter and further infection will be stopped. Here we can say that that is the same thing, and either those nanoparticles will also be present in the host cell receptors, and what they do, they block the entry of the virus into the host cell, and if their entry is stopped, so everything, we can say that we have stopped the infection. So the next step after the attachment is the viral replication. If somehow that particular virus is has entered into the cell, so the next possible step is to stop the replication of the virus. So once the virus enters the cell, it hijacks the cellular biochemical machinery to produce more copies of itself. So if the virus is able to successfully execute the second step of the infection cycle, it is able to spread in the body and causes infection. So if somehow we are able to stop the replication, so we can also stop it for the further transmission and further replication, further assembly and release. Nanostructures have mainly been used as carrier to deliver the antiviral molecules. However, recently a number of nanoparticles are shown to intrinsically inhibit the virus replication. So nanoparticles has also ability to stop the virus replication, such as we have silver S nanoparticle nanoclusters which were reported to exert an inhibitory effect on coronavirus replication. So here we have virus protein level virus proteins, we have the entry inhibitors. So if either they are stopping the entry or they stop the RNA release into the cell. So if there are the viruses which are present here, they what they do, they inhibit the entry. That entry is also complete virus entry into the cell, or they also inhibit the release of the RNA to the cell as well. So what they do, the next step is the replication inhibitor. So they bind to the we can say that the vehicles, the transport vehicles, the endoplasmic reticulums. And if those endoplasmic reticulum will not transport their messenger RNA to the nucleus, so their translation and their further protein synthesis process can be stopped. Translation replication can also be stopped by inhibiting their we can say that the translation. And if it also passed this step and it has translated their genetic material, and now endoplasmic reticulum will what it do, and Golgi apparatus, it will get it to assemble and it will be released. So there are the, we can say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 steps where the nanoparticles can be used, and where the nanoparticles are being used to stop the virus transmission, virus life cycle at various life cycle steps. We have the carbon quantum dots prepared using by hydrothermal carbonization. So what we are doing, we have the HCOV, we have the COVID 229E. There is another genotype of this particular coronavirus. So that is a normal process. We have the receptor DPP4, and what it do, it spike proteins, and it will allow, and it will bind to it and causes the infection. But if we are using what we are the carbon quantum dots, which are also the nanoparticles, are which are different in their properties. So they are named carbon quantum dots 3, 5, and 6. So what they do, there are two possible ways. Either they bind to the receptor, and that target cell membrane, it will not, this particular virus will not bind to the cell, or it inhibits the virus replication. So the nanoparticles are performing their function at every step of the life cycle. So if there is a infection, there is a infection attachment, there is infection, there is a release of the virus, so there is a need to deliver a drug into the system. So the drug delivery via nano carriers help to overcome several challenges associated with the traditional method of antiviral drug administration. So what are the challenges? What are the disadvantages of traditional method? There is the poor bioavailability, susceptibility to in vivo degradation of the drug, systematic toxicity, and short life cycle in the body are some of the drawbacks associated with the antiviral therapeutics. And nanoparticle has, we can say that, given all these advantages instead of or over these are traditional methods. However, nano-delivery systems resolve these issues and enable higher bioavailability, reduction in effective and drug dosage. So there is also their toxicity as well. So it is not the case that they are not toxic. The toxicity is present, but their toxicity is low. So they also protect from degradation. They also improve the half-life, the life of the drug in the system as well. So here we have the nano drug delivery system, which is used as the vehicle or the cargo. Here we have the lipid biolayer. We have the surface proteins to target liposome to specific location in the body. We have the surface sugars. We have, and in all these protective systems, we have there the drugs, solid or water soluble drugs in the core. So those drugs can be solid or those drugs can be liquid. So they can, we can say that they are packed in the nanoparticles, which is the lipid nanoparticle, and it will specially target certain molecules to bind. Nano drugs within are protected during the travel, and nano drugs of different solubility properties are carried within the liposomes. So here we have the lipid nanoparticles which protect the messenger RNA from degradation and facilitate endocytosis and endodermal escape. So here we have the lipid nanoparticle which are protecting the messenger RNA which we have packed in the nanoparticles. So if there is an unprotected messenger RNA, so it will be obviously degraded. But if it is protected with the lipid nanoparticles, it can be delivered into the cell, and it can, when it once it is into the cells, it can be exogenously released messenger RNA. So what it will does, it will bind to the endogenous antigens, and there will be a new, we can say that antigens are produced, antigen antibodies, and they can also be used to inhibit the life cycle. So at the last, we have the vaccine development. So nanotechnology also offers opportunities in vaccine developments. As far as the nanoparticles are concerned, nanoparticles and viruses, they both operate at the same size scale, at the nanoscale. Therefore, nanoparticles have an ability to enter cells to enable expression of antigens from delivered nucleic acid, which is the messenger RNA, and DNA, the vaccine, directly target immune cells for delivery of antigens, and the lipid nanoparticles are mostly used for transport of nanodrugs, and then their expression is controlled. So here we can say that we have the SARS-CoV-2, which is the size of 120 nanometer. And here we have the silver nanoparticle, which is less than 20 nanometer. So as far as their size is concerned, these both are working at the same size scale. We are not saying that they are both the same size, but they are scale is same. Virus is of nanometer, and this particular silver nanoparticle is of the nanometer size. So if we compare these two, We have here we have the viruses, and along with it we have the nano devices, nanopores, dendrimers, nanotubes. So they all are occurring, they are present here in the antibodies, and they what they do due to their similar size. So what they do, they will, if they are more effective as compared to the traditional method. So on 18 November 2020, we have the BioNTech Pfizer announced the final results of their COVID-19 vaccine phase 3 clinical trials. And these are the first messenger RNA based vaccines hitting the clinical use. So previously there were the vaccine which were either live attenuated or dead organism was present in the vaccine, but now these are the first vaccine which are the messenger RNA based vaccine which are now being used. This new class of DNA and RNA based vaccine deliver the genetic sequence of specific viral proteins to the host cell using nanotechnology platform. So these vaccines are not, these vaccines have the viruses. We have the DNA viruses, which are the proteins. And by giving this vaccine, the cells become immune to the new infection of the viruses. So here we have the array of vaccine. We have the viruses, we have viral vectors, nucleic acid, and protein-based vaccine. So we have these major four classes of the vaccine. So first we have the viruses. Either they are inactivated or they are weakened. So here there is a, we can say that their usage in the biomedical field. We have also viral vectors. We have also nucleic acid. Nucleic acid, either it is the DNA or RNA. So here the DNA part is somewhat, we can say that we can say low, while the RNA is used mostly. We have the protein subunits and virus-like particles are also being used. So here we have the mechanism of action of antiviral nanomaterials. So nanomaterial with indirect activity do not inhibit the viruses by themselves. So instead they improve the activity of antiviral treatments. So here we have the damage to DNA and RNA. So what they do, they drug delivery can also be maintained. So damage to the viral structure, and it can also interfere with the cell docking attachment and blocking receptors. So at the end, we can say that these nanoparticles have various potential applications for nano as a nano drugs to be used as used for the vehicle or cargoes for delivery of the drugs as well. They are also used for the personal protective equipments as well. But there are also some concerns and threats which are related with the nanoparticles. So these nanoparticles, they either become part of the soil or they become part of the water and systems, aquatic organism, atmosphere. So these all are the sources in one way or the other are related to the humans, and they causes some concerns to the human health. For example, the major threat which is associated with the nanoparticle is the genotoxic risk. So that genotoxicity is either to the somatic cells or germ cells, and it can cause a various diseases like the genetic diseases, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, and cystic fibrosis. So here we have the certain, we can say that the threats to it, we have the in vitro and in vivo. Either they are for the reactive oxygen species, the lysosomes, and in vivo in the system, they mostly are organ toxicity is associated with their use of nanoparticle. So at the end, we can conclude it that in spite of their great potential to be used in various biomedicine and biomedical purposes, nanoparticles, some concerns have also been shown. So one major concern related to nanoparticles is the cytotoxicity and genotoxicity. So due to their smaller size, okay, they are used for various purposes, but they are also have some threats. So they can be used in the controlled manner. So here are the references. Thank you.
ओह माय गॉड, बहुत ही लंबी, बहुत डिटेल, बड़ी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव। ये तुम्हारा टाइटल पहले जरा दिखाओ मुझे कि मैं देखूं टाइटल से कितनी रिलेटेड थी
ये है टाइटल मैडम, स्टार्ट।
नैनो टेक्नोलॉजी एंड कोविड-19। तो तुमने नैनो टेक्नोलॉजी को तो बहुत डिटेल में डिस्कस किया,
मैम
उसके
उसकी
बाद आए हो
बेसिक,
तुम कोविड-19 में। चलो ठीक है, एक क्वेश्चन आंसर प्लीज। हेलो, ये ऑलमोस्ट तुम्हारी तकरीबन समझो 50 मिनट्स की है। अच्छा, हाँ जी, क्वेश्चंस, लेकिन बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव है, बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है। अच्छा जी, हेलो बच्चों, आप सारे गायब हो गए हो क्या?
नहीं मैम, आप पूछे, हम आखिर में पूछेंगे मैम।
आप कब आखिरी पूछेंगे भाई? हैं?
नहीं मैम,
आप अभी
मुझे
क्यों?
सवाल मुझे जहन में आ रहा है, लेकिन अभी अभी जो इलियास ने बात की है।
हाँ,
इलियास भाई,
पूछो।
would nanomaterial be a source to prevent COVID-19? And then the second part is, which one would be the most important to play a role in treatment of COVID-19? जिस तरह आपने ये बात की है आखिर में, जीनोटॉक्सिक रिस्क की बात की है आपने, कि थ्रेट टू ह्यूमन, तो क्या हम कोई उम्मीद रख सकते हैं कि नैनो मटेरियल हेल्प कर सकते हैं, ट्रीट कर सकते हैं कोविड-19 की, या बस इसकी जो जीनोटॉक्सिक रिस्क है तो हम इसे अवॉइड करें? तो क्या कहते हो आप?
नहीं, यूज़ तो हमने बिल्कुल स्टार्ट से लेकर एंड तक इसके यूजेज ही पढ़ी है कि कहाँ कहाँ पे ये यूज़ हो रहा है। मतलब ये हमने ये इसकी पोटेंशियल नहीं बताया कि ये यूज़ हो सकता है। ये ऑलरेडी बायोसेंसर्स में यूज़ हो रहा है, ऑलरेडी वैक्सीन्स में ये यूज़ हो चुका है, बायोएनटेक और फाइजर की वैक्सीन्स में। तो यूज़ तो हम इसको कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जो हमने जहाँ तक बात की है इसकी जीनोटॉक्सिसिटी की या इसकी साइटोटॉक्सिसिटी की, तो वो हमने ये बात की कि इसका सिर्फ पॉजिटिव एस्पेक्ट ही नहीं है, देयर आर सम आल्सो नेगेटिव एंड हार्मफुल एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द नैनो पार्टिकल, सो विच उनको भी सामने रख कर इनको आगे जो है उनकी एप्लीकेशन की जाएगी। बाकी जो फर्दर हमारे पास एरियाज हैं बायोमेडिसिन के, वैक्सीन्स में तो ये ऑलरेडी वैसे यूज़ हो चुका है। जो न्यू 3 वैक्सीन्स आई हैं उन तीनों में यही नैनो पार्टिकल्स उन्होंने यूज़ किए हैं।
और मेरा जो सेकंड सवाल था आपको सिल्वर नैनो पार्टिकल से था, सेकंड पार्ट का, जो आपने कहा कि ये 20 नैनोमीटर है,
जी जी।
तो क्या इसकी स्मॉल साइज की वजह से वुड बी द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट टू प्ले अ रोल?
नहीं, हमने सिर्फ उसको कंपेयर किया था कि वो भी नैनो पार्टिकल्स भी नैनो साइज़ के हैं और वायरस भी नैनो साइज़ का है। तो मोस्टली क्योंकि एंटी माइक्रोबियल एक्टिविटी जो है वो सिल्वर नैनो पार्टिकल की है, तो इसीलिए हमने उसको यहाँ पे ऐड कर दिया कि इसका हम साइज़ कंपैरिजन हमने किया और उसके बाद हमने आगे का बताया फिर।
मतलब हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि which one would be the most important?
नहीं, हर हमारे पास क्वांटम डॉट्स हैं, हमारे पास नैनो वायर्स हैं, हमारे पास गोल्ड नैनो पार्टिकल्स हैं, और भी हमारे पास कार्बन के नैनो पार्टिकल्स हैं, सिल्वर के हैं, कॉपर के हैं। तो हर एक की अलग-अलग वो क्या कह सकते हैं कि एप्लीकेशंस है हर एक साइड में। फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे पास डायग्नोस्टिक किट्स हैं, हमारे पास वैक्सीन्स हैं, हमारे पास पर्सनल प्रोटेक्टिव इक्विपमेंट्स हैं। तो हर एक चीज़ में हर एक तरह के वो जो नैनो पार्टिकल्स हैं वो यूज़ हो रहे हैं। हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि ये पर्टिकुलर एक नैनो पार्टिकल है जिसको हम यहाँ पे यूज़ करेंगे। तो हमारे पास वैरायटी है, जिसको हम जहाँ फिट समझते हैं वहाँ पे हम उसको यूज़ करते हैं।
जी जी सर।
एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? कोई और है? अच्छा, मुझे ये बताओ कि जो फ्रॉम कोरोना वायरस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू,
यस
अभी
मैम।
आपने बताया कि फाइजर डेवलप कर रहा है, लेकिन कोई चीज ऐसी आई है, कोई चीज ऐसी सिवाय इसके फाइजर वालों के कोई और किसी उसमें है, आई मीन इन प्रोसेस है, व्हाट?
नहीं मैडम, ये बेसिकली इसके जो डायग्नोस्टिक की किट्स हैं, तो हम पहले भी एक न्यूज़ वैसे डिस्कस कर चुके हैं जिसमें वो लैब ऑन चिप उन्होंने बात की थी। उसमें उन्होंने नैनो
हाँ
वायर्स यूज़ की थी, वो अभी तक
हाँ
कमर्शियली उन्होंने अप्लाई नहीं की। तो उस नैनो
हाँ।
वायर्स में उन्होंने क्रिस्पर बेस्ड सिस्टम के साथ नैनो वायर्स को इनकारपोरेट करके तो उसका डायग्नोस्टिक किट्स उन्होंने लैब ऑन चिप बनाई थी, तो उसमें भी ये यूज़ हो रहा है।
ठीक।
इसके साथ ये वैक्सीन
अच्छा।
हो गई, तो उसके
हाँ,
साथ पर्सनल प्रोटेक्टिव इक्विपमेंट्स भी बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं जो अभी तक डेवलप हो चुके हैं। हमारे पास डिसइंफेक्टेंट है सिल्वर नैनो पार्टिकल का, ऑर्गेनिक
लेकिन
डिसइंफेक्टेंट विच इज आल्सो बीइंग।
अभी वो मार्केट में नहीं आए हैं।
नहीं मैडम, मार्केट में हमारे पास डिसइंफेक्टेंट अवेलेबल हैं, पर्सनल प्रोटेक्टिव इक्विपमेंट टू सम एक्सटेंट हमारे पास लैब में
हाँ, वो तो
अवेलेबल
है
हैं।
किसी हद तक, हाँ ठीक है।
लेकिन मार्केट में जहाँ तक हमारे पास बात है वो डिसइंफेक्टेंट मौजूद हैं सिल्वर नैनो पार्टिकल के, और हमारे पास जो सरफेस कोटिंग्स हैं कुछ वो अवेलेबल हैं, और उसके साथ हमारे पास ये वैक्सीन्स हैं जो कमर्शियली उन्होंने जिसको अवेलेबल कर दिया है।
अच्छा अच्छा, और कोई खबर, कोई चीज पूछना चाहता है कोई भी बंदा? हेलो, कुछ और पूछना चाहते हैं आप? चलो नहीं पूछना चाहते हैं तो फिर हम खत्म करते हैं इसको यहाँ पर।
यस मैम।
इट इज 12 कितना है 12:44। ठीक, अब कुत्सिया है मौजूद?
नो मैम, वो तो यहाँ पे नहीं है।